What do you say, everybody? With Trey Yanity, I'm Mick Gillispie. Welcome to the Bama Insider post-game show. And from Westgate Luxury Condominiums right outside of Bryant-Denny Stadium, Trey and the gang are hanging out. And I'm in my home studio watching the game right now. And we're going to break this thing down. We're going to take your calls like we always do. A convincing 59-3 win for Alabama. And before we start talking about the Crimson Tide, let me tell you about Westgate. 200 feet from Bryant-Denny. As you can see in that video right there, as you can see on your screen, that's the roof. That's the Skygate Club right there. Across from Bryant-Denny Stadium, you got units available right now, 1 to 5 bedroom condominiums. They range from 900 to 3,000 square feet. You got the spacious and oversized balconies. You got the luxurious Wolf and Sub-Zero equipped kitchens. You got the spacious floor plans, and you're right there next to the stadium. You can walk to campus. You can walk to you can walk to the Strip. You could go to the Quad. You're right in the middle of it, and that's where you are right now, Trey. What's up, man? Trey, I think you're muted. Got to unmute. There you are.
There we go. What's up, everybody? It's still be a nicer day. No audio still. You got me all right, Mick?
I can hear you through Chris's audio, so I think you got to try now.
Let's see what we got. Can you hear me all right now? Press test.
Just, Chris, leave your audio up. We can hear him through that. I'm not sure what you guys did since we last talked. But anyway, talk about this game.
Yeah, this is a game we expected to go like this. And as I get into it here, Mick, you're more than correct. We got the Fetus going here at Westgate. We are 200 feet away as the fans start to pile out here. But, this game went exactly how we thought it would. And to start this game, the defense, I want to say looked slow, but they didn't necessarily look like we wanted them to start this game. And, again, I apologize for these audio issues here, but Alabama had some issues to start this game too, and they kind of figured it out. That's what I wanted to see today. Then make the adjustments, get these youngsters in the game, allow some new guys to get their opportunities. Like before he works, had a touchdown taken away there, but, get into the end zone, get some of these younger guys their chances, and, it was really good to see Bryce on another excellent day. The defensive line figured out the offensive line had to deal with a lot. They, had to come into this game missing some key guys and, just kind of figured it out there. So overall, I thought it was a really good day. You put some points on the board. I thought they might get to 100 the way they scored in the first half. But, no complaints. I think maybe if we're going to be nitpicky, as we like to get on this show, but overall, he was a good day for us.
Guys, give us a call at 205-850-0883. We're going to talk about the game today. Get your opinions on Alabama. A couple of guys that were injured in the game, DeMarco Helms and Roydell Williams. Alabama couldn't afford another injury at the running back spot, but that's the case with Roydell Williams out hurt. And we saw some Trey Sanders today, and that was good for Alabama. And then Christian Leary came in to run the football after that, so he moves from receiver to running back.
Yeah, how about it? One thing I wanted to see today was versatility in certain players. We see, linebackers getting at running back. We see Christian Leary getting his chance today. And, it was really interesting to kind of see how they would work these guys. And I thought to start the second half, we may see Jalen Milroe or Paul Tyson. But, we got to see a lot of Jalen Milroe when it was all said and done. And this is running back from Trey Sanders. Some of these guys that got confidence today, they needed this game. Now, there's still some things to fix. This Alabama team, we didn't maybe see a complete first quarter. I think we're still waiting on that complete game. But today was, another stride for this guy. This game is, one I think we're going to look back at. Today was New Mexico State. This was just another preparation game. Alabama really did figure some things out today, and that's what today is about. Mexico State came here. They got a check. They hung around it. And honestly, in that first quarter, I think they take a lot away from this game. But overall, you tighten up the screws and get some of this youth an opportunity to play. I love to see it. And for Christian Leary, it's really cool to see him kind of make that switch over to running back and, activate that way.
Yeah, well, and he was running hard. Trey Sanders scored his second touchdown as a member of Alabama. He was running hard as well. But gosh, Alabama just cannot afford another injury. And, they already lost Chase McClellan, who I think was their most explosive running back. Then now you're talking about Roydell Williams. Not sure what how significant his injury is. But I'll tell you what, it really does hurt this Alabama team going down the stretch with 2 games left. Arkansas next week in Tuscaloosa at 2:30. It's going to be a much different game than this, a more physical game. You're talking about an Arkansas team that's going to come in with a lot to prove. They've been on the doorstep of some big upsets. They feel like they can play with Alabama. We'll see how that turns out. Then down on the Plains, which, by the way, it was at one time 28-3 Auburn. Mississippi State leads right now 36-28. How does that affect Alabama if that happens? Well, that, for all intents and purposes, eliminates Auburn from the playoff chase, right? From a look at Atlanta. They lose this football game, they're out. Then it comes down to Alabama and Texas A&M. Trey's going to hop off right now. He's going to go ahead and help us corral Nick Saban's press conference. And we'll pull up the stats from today's game and take a look at those. And Trey, come on back later on when you get Nick Saban's press conference, and we'll talk about it, okay? Here's the situation. Let's throw out the stats from today's game, right? And you look at the way that things went for Alabama, and you guys call in if you want to talk about this game or anything going on in college football right now. Would love to hear from you on the Bama Insider call-in show. And by the way, like and subscribe as you hang out with us here early on a Saturday, the first 11 o'clock game for the Crimson Tide. Hit the like button. That's your way of saying Roll Tide to us as you hang out. 59-3 final in a game that we figured was going to be that way. Another amazing consistent performance by Bryce Young. I don't know that this really helps him in his quest to win the Heisman Trophy, but I'll tell you what, it did not hurt. He was just about flawless today. He was 21-23, 270 yards, 5 touchdowns. And he leads Alabama in passing. But we got to see a lot of different guys. And I know that when you talk about this Alabama football team, you're wanting to see some different guys get on the field. And that's what Alabama was able to do today. Paul Tyson came in. He was 6 of 8 passing. We got to see Jalen Milroe, who ran the football, threw it 2 for 5, but it was him on the ground running 5 times for 26 yards. And you almost question, at what point does Alabama say, hey, you know what? Maybe we can bring Milroe into the game, short yardage situations, maybe down on the goal line when you need someone fast. He rivals the fastest guy on the team, Jamison Williams, with speed. So there's an argument between those two guys as to who's the fastest. Well, the question is there a way to get Milroe on the field? And I'll tell you what, it was really great to see Braxton Barker, our buddy Jay Barker's son, get a chance to throw and play some QB at the end of the game. He's worked so hard. We love Jay. Comes on noon to 2 every single day. His dad, a Alabama legend and a national champion. Well, he got into the game today and had an opportunity to throw a pass. And I was hoping that it would be a first down. It was just a little bit short. And because of that, the game was Alabama pretty much just ran the clock out. But good to see him in there as well. Guys, call in. About to get to the phones and take some of your calls. And also love the comments in the comment section right now. Big Buck, I'm going to throw you up there for a second. Man, the injuries were killer today. Yeah, look, you don't want to lose your guys in a game like this. No doubt about it, right? That's always a tough part of when you play any game in football, is that Nick Saban's going to send you out there to play, and sometimes guys get hurt. So we don't know about Roydell Williams. I'm sure Nick Saban will be asked about this. DeMarco Hellams. I don't know if there's anyone else on that list, but I'm very curious to see how that turns out. All right, let's go to the phone lines and get this thing going. Again, the phone lines are open at 205-850-0883 after a convincing win to go to 9-1 for the Crimson Tide. Who's this and where are you calling from?
What's up, Mick? This is Jarek from Buffalo, man.
Jarek, what's up, man?
Nothing much, man. Just cold, man. Just cold, man. Just got done shoveling some snow, so I'm, glad Alabama got the win today.
Look, I am too. This was a tough win for the Crimson Tide, but I'll tell you what, I'm joking, of course. This is a win that you would expect. It's the last tune-up. Mm-hmm. You look at this program right now, they're on the verge of winning a 10th game for, what is it, and how many seasons in a row now have they done that? Since 2008, they've won 10 games or more. Yeah. What Nick Saban has been able to accomplish at Alabama really is remarkable. And it's exciting to kind of see, just when you look at the long body of work, how this may be the greatest dynasty of all time. But let's talk a little bit about today's game. What did you see? What did you expect to see? And how do you feel about things now that we're past this one and looking ahead to the final two?
Well, I was glad that we finally was able to see some of our younger guys play. I know that's some of the things that I've been complaining about, that a lot of the Alabama faithful have been complaining about for a while. So I'm glad that we finally got an opportunity to see guys like Hall finally play. We saw an opportunity of our offensive linemen, some of those 5-star players. I think one of the Brockmeyer brothers played. I know Kendall Randolph finally switched his number back to 60. We saw a little bit of J.C. Latham there. It was good to see Jalen Moody play. I mean, it's just good to see our overall young guys play. And in the second half, they made a lot of mistakes. That obviously I think that they can go back to the film room. They got film now to kind of look and see where they need to kind of work on now. So it was great seeing those things play. The first drive, was a little disappointing because, again, we struggled with motion and movement, pre-snap motion, movement. And we had, again, busted coverages in the secondary. We were just confused, again, with their motion and movement, but we were, able to make adjustments to that. So I give P. Golding a little bit of credit there. Tough loss with Helms. I know, Daniel Wright, again, it's been a back and forth kind of argument between who's better, Helms or Wright. But to lose one of our guys, that's a tough loss for anything. It's just a day that I guess, the one thing that we can say is that we're just glad that we were able to see the younger guys play, and that we're glad that we were able to take care of business, because that's one of the things that we've kind of struggled with. We've had no problem with winning, but, sometimes taking care of business has been kind of one of our biggest issues. So I'm glad that we took care of business. New Mexico State did not have to score, 17 or 20 something points like we see Samford doing to Florida right now. Samford's putting up 50 points on Florida right now. So I'm glad that we were able to take care of business tonight, Nick.
Yeah, I'm looking at that game right now, 70-52. Florida's come back to take the lead. I think if Florida loses this game somehow, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Dan Mullen. I don't know that he leaves the stadium as the head coach, but the Gators have rumbled back. This is a world where you've got to be able to score. I mean, you know that, Jarek. I mean, we've talked about that a lot. How do you feel, though, if Roydell Williams, say he's out for a while, how does that affect Alabama's offense?
I'm really honest with you. I think Trey Sanders is better than Roydell Williams. I think Roydell's a little bit more explosive, but when it comes to reading his blocks, and being patient with the ball, Trey Sanders is the better back there. Mm-hmm. Trey Sanders, it seems like he's lost a tad bit of that explosiveness. Now, again, he's been through hell ever since being here with injuries, and hopefully he can. And again, he's running the ball all right, he's taking some big hits, but it's refreshing to see a back reading, just finding a way for letting these blockers really set up everything. He's reading everything right. He's picking the right holes. And then we also saw a lot of physicality. So, again, obviously Roydell is a more explosive running back, but I would rather go with the guy that can, again, set things up. I love what I saw from Trey. Out there tonight. And, again, no disrespect to Roydell Williams, and obviously Jason McClellan's a great back, especially in out of space. But I think of all the running backs, I've been saying this for a while, I think Trey was probably our number 2 back. But, we were able to – Trey has an opportunity now to kind of prove that he deserves to be number 2 moving forward.
12 carries, 66 yards for Sanders. You can tell when he touches the football that there's an explosiveness that he has. I mean, and there's a smoothness too that I love. You watch the greats. Yeah. I mean, look at what Najee did last year. He had that ability to just read the hole, and he never looked like he was trying to hurry there, but he just kind of got there when he needed to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's refreshing. It's kind of refreshing to see. It's like Brian Robinson. We like Brian Robinson, of course. He's a very tough and physical running back, and we were able to kind of see what type of speed and explosiveness he can have. But when it comes to really, patience and having the vision of the running back, I think Trey Sanders is on a different level compared to a lot of those guys. So I think that, again, it gives us a new element at the running back position. I think that, again, are we going to see a lot of Trey Sanders? Probably not, because even when Rodell Williams was healthy, we didn't really see a lot of Rodell Williams,
right,
or Jace McKellen, unless it was on third and short or second and short downs, where our running back was our swing out guy, and we would have him kind of try to make some plays open in the open space. So Brian Robinson, we all know, is going to get a majority of the bulk of the carries. We're rarely probably going to see Trey Sanders anyway, but it still adds a different dimension to our running game, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it's certainly something that we're not sure about yet. I mean, there's not a lot of body of work right now with Trey Sanders, but I feel like if you're Alabama, you almost have to put him in there and see what he can do, because if you don't and something happens to Brian Robinson, you're really in big trouble. You are, because Demoy Kennedy right now is our third string running back. He's our third string running back right now. And again, we've been, this is where we hate the transfer portal. This is where the transfer portal comes into play, because, you would love to see Keelan Robinson get an opportunity. You would love, to see some of our, see a Kyle Edwards go out there and get an opportunity in this football game. But those guys are gone. Those guys are gone elsewhere. And now we've been detrimented by injuries. So now, we're stuck with this. So I think that you kind of have no choice but to give the ball a little bit there to Trey Sanders and see what he can do. Try to take a little bit of the load off to Brian Robinson, because, again, if you don't, you just made a point. Demoy Kennedy is the second string running back. Your reaction after Oklahoma was just beaten and they're storming the field in Baylor? No more Heisman talk. That's done. That Heisman talk with Caleb Williams was done. It was I watched a little bit of that game side by side with the Alabama game. It was a good game. It was a great physical game. Two great defenses playing against each other. It was just, Baylor did a phenomenal job running the football, and that's something that I wish we can go back to. Like, I love how Baylor just set the tone with their physicality at the line of scrimmage. That's something that we've been missing at the University of Alabama for a while, was just a physical football team. So something that, honestly, I don't know if we're going to watch the Baylor game, of course, but it's something that, honestly, I feel like we can try to learn from, I guess. And, it's a big shocker. It's definitely a little bit of a big shocker. Maybe not to the College Football Playoff Committee, because they, again, they had Oklahoma ranked, even though they were undefeated. So that kind of tells you everything you wanted to know about Oklahoma. Yeah.
But it kind of sets everything up, because Cincinnati has a chance, man. Cincinnati has a chance, and Cincinnati needs a lot of help, and they needed Oklahoma to lose. The Big 12 is not really respected. It's not respected by the playoff committee's eyes. So they need a little bit of help. They need Notre Dame to keep winning. They need their conference to potentially get some more teams ranked in there, but they needed Oklahoma to lose. And so far, everything is playing right into Cincinnati's hands. Michigan's up 21-17 in Happy Valley over Penn State. They're 8-1. They'd go to 9-1 if they hold on the win. And for Alabama, I hate to say it, but with that game against Georgia looming out there, if they get past Arkansas and Auburn, and the possibility of losing that game, to get into the playoff with 2 losses, you kind of need some of these other teams to lose games like this, right? So, I mean, I don't know if Alabama wins out, they get in, but I'm looking at it and I'm thinking that for Alabama's sake, you hope that there's some more upsets, like maybe somehow Penn State gets back and wins this. Yeah, and we got to get past Arkansas and Auburn first, because if we lose to either one of those games, A&M is literally a game away for controlling this division, and they're going to Atlanta, and we're going to have to sit back home. So we really got to focus on beating Arkansas, Auburn, again, improving on the pre-snap motions, not getting miscommunication in the back end of our secondary, have more players step up on the defensive line that can rush the passer, because once again, Dallas Turner had a really good game today. I saw Tim Smith making plays. Will Anderson should be in the Heisman. There should be no excuse why he's not going to New York.
Right.
Again, he's like 3-4 sacks away before breaking the SEC record in 3 or 4 pass rushing categories. I mean, you got to be kidding me. So, no, again, that's probably for another discussion, because I know you got to get to other callers. But this was a great win for Alabama. This was a great win for Alabama. They were able to just go in there, take care of business out there. So anyway, Mick, I'm going to let you get the other callers, Mick. I know I'm kind of holding them up, but anyway, guys, have a good day, man, and I'll catch you guys later.
All right, thanks. Always great hearing from Jarek up in Buffalo. All-American caller. Phone line's open right now, so call in and let's talk about this game today. Let's talk about what's going on around the world of college football. 205-850-0883 as we talk to you from Westgate Luxury Condominiums right next to Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa after Alabama's win. Chris has pulled up the play chart today. Look at that play chart. Actually, that's the scoring chart, but even better. It was at one time 3-0 New Mexico State, and then Alabama just turned it on. Touchdown, 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 and another touchdown, and they capped it off with a field goal. The Crimson Tide today, a 59-3 win, and that's kind of what we expected. I mean, it was a 51.5 point spread, so Alabama covers that, and New Mexico State gets the $1.9 million payout. Ran into some Aggies fans around town, and they were really happy to be there. Next week they go to Lexington, Kentucky. That's where their coach Doug Martin played in college, so they'll go back there, and and then Doug Martin most likely is not going to have his contract renewed, so kind of winding down the season. Maybe he retires, but picking up some big paychecks for this New Mexico State program. It is now a final in Happy Valley. Michigan improves to 9-1. They beat Penn State today, 21-17. Auburn, looking at the score, and I'm just going to turn around as I talk to you guys here. And Mississippi State just continues to score on these guys. Unbelievable. But it was 44. The last time I looked at it, 44-28. And Auburn may have just scored. So that game's not over yet. But, obviously it benefits Alabama if Mississippi State beats Auburn. And all of a sudden Auburn, which had so much momentum going into the, going into the game last week against Texas A&M, has had things kind of start to really sour on them as things have progressed. So that score right now is 43-28. So it's 43-28, and then Auburn trying to score to stay in the football game. Guys, the phone lines are open, so give us a call, 205-850-0883 if you want to talk about today's game and what happened. Chris, put up back on the screen. Let's take a look at the receiving leaders for Alabama. Jamison Williams, another big game for the Crimson Tide. He's been just a real godsend to this Crimson Tide team, transferring over from Ohio State, and he's been such a integral part of everything that they do. And it has been just such a great thing to have him. And hey, guess what? Breaking news for you right here. Class of 2022 tight end Jax Porter, he's from IMG Academy, just committed as an invited walk-on. So Jax Porter, IMG Academy, commits to playing football at Alabama as an invited walk-on. So Alabama working on some tight end depth, and they get someone from IMG Academy, one of the real good schools all of a sudden now for football. And Alabama constantly doing the recruiting. Waiting on Nick Saban's press conference, too. We're going back to the phone lines, and let's talk a little bit more Crimson Tide. Who's this? And where are you calling from?
Am I on the air?
Yes.
Hi, this is Christopher from Oklahoma.
What's up?
This is Christopher from Oklahoma. I'm a big Alabama fan.
Okay.
And I'm a Oklahoma Sooners fan. My mom and dad are nurses at OU Medical Center.
Okay.
They have been taking care of COVID patients. But I'm thinking about being a doctor at Alabama University.
Okay. Well, come on down. What did you think of today's football game?
I thought it was good. And hey, I got a few questions for you.
Yeah.
I think the quarterback has been playing good for Alabama. I forget his name.
Bryce Young.
Very good.
It's Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. But I have Bryce Young winning the Heisman. And do you guys think Bama's got a good shot winning the national championship? And do you think some more chaos in college football can happen?
Yes. I think Alabama. What's that?
And one more thing.
Yeah.
Do you think some more chaos can happen for the Oklahoma Sooners to guarantee you? That was my national championship pick.
Yeah, I don't think
Oklahoma and Alabama.
Yeah, I don't think that, unfortunately, I don't think that Oklahoma is going to make the college football playoff anymore. They weren't getting a lot of respect from the playoff committee. Remember, even though they were undefeated at 9-0, they were still number 8. So they were back there a little bit. And then today's loss against Baylor, which is a good football team. Don't get me wrong. Baylor is a really good football team. And it's not, I don't think, a terrible loss for Oklahoma, but I think they really needed this win to earn the respect of the committee. And obviously, that's not going to happen. So it's going to be tough for them to get in. What's that?
Before I get off the phone with you, man, can I tell you something?
What's that?
What if some more chaos happened and OU beats Iowa State and beats Oklahoma State twice?
Well, I'll tell you what, anything can happen. And if there was a team that like Oklahoma that won out and you know, you're right, chaos happened, they could definitely get in. I just think that their chance of getting in is really, really small, but they're going to have to win and get a lot of help, a lot of chaos, as you're saying, for them to get in there and, you know, and get to the college football playoff. But it's going to start with beating Iowa State. They're going to have to beat Oklahoma State. Then they're going to have to win the Big 12 championship. So they're going to need a lot of help to get there as well. They're going to need some other teams to lose, but it's all possible.
I think if Purdue won today, that would help them.
No doubt. I'll tell you what, no doubt about it.
Before I get off the phone with you, I just wanted to tell you, I watched.
All right. I think we lost you there. You still there? Nope. Lost you. But anyway, look, appreciate the calls. 205-850-0883. Let's take a look at some more of the stats. And yeah, leave the defense up there. That's fine. I see that, Chris. Jalen Armour Davis with 6 solo tackles today. You know, another good game for him. The guy I want to look at, though, is, you know who I want to look at. that guy right there, Will Anderson Jr. Look at that. 2 more sacks today. What a beast. I mean, and think about the season that he could have had he not gotten hurt in the Mercer game, right? But he is still absolutely devastating when he plays. 2 solo tackles, 2 sacks. This was the type of game where you let him get out there and get a sweat up, and then all of a sudden you pull him out and keep him fresh for the final 2 games, Arkansas and Ole Miss. Update from the Plains right now. Auburn scored. There's 3 minutes and 29 seconds left, and Mississippi State leads Auburn 43-34. So flip it, 43-34. That game's not over yet. So don't go ahead and put that in the bank because, as we all know, we call it Auburn Jesus. There's anything can happen for them down on the Plains. 205-850-0883. As we wait on Nick Saban to talk about today's game, we want an update, obviously, on Roydell Williams and DeMarco Helms and any other injuries that the Crimson Tide might have had. Alabama next week plays 2:30 at Bryant-Denny Stadium. That wraps up their home schedule for the year. And for the Crimson Tide, they're going to play a very physical Arkansas team, then the Iron Bowl the next week. So it's ramping up for what could be a fantastic finish. And for Alabama, looking for that 10th win. And they'd have at least 10 wins every season since 2008, which is just an absolutely phenomenal accomplishment for Alabama's head coach, Nick Saban, who may be the greatest head coach in the history of college football. I mean, him and Bear Bryant, you could sit there and debate, but no one's won more national championships than Nick Saban, first guy to ever win one at 2 different schools. And last year, Alabama won again, and they're still in the mix this year. And one of the questions that our caller asked us was, do I think that Alabama still has a chance to win the national championship? And I do. Look, they're squarely in this. Georgia, by far, is the favorite. And wondering if Alabama and Georgia play, what the spread would be in that football game. I could see it anywhere from Georgia by 4 or 5 to all the way to Georgia by 9 or 10. To give you an idea of kind of how back and forth. I don't think it would be more than 10, but Georgia has this defense that has been wrecking opponents, and for Alabama, a game like this where they can work on their offense and score some points does nothing but help them out. All right, yeah, pull up the offensive efficiency comparison stat for me, just to make it a little bit bigger so I can read it here, and we'll talk about that today. Red zone attempts, Bama was perfect, 6 for 6. Red zone points, 38 for the Crimson Tide. Third down efficiency. This is a big stat, and this is something that Alabama has continually done well this year. And again, they were 8 for 12 on third down. So, more excellent work for the Crimson Tide offense. Time of possession was just about even in this ball game, and Alabama scored 7 points off of New Mexico State turnovers. So, most of the points that were scored today were Alabama stopping New Mexico State, getting the football back, and then going down the field and scoring the ball. Guys, hit us up in the comments section as we hang out with you as well. Charles with the barn is going down. Look, I know a lot of you Alabama fans, they throw me in there as well. Love to win, and then when you look down on the Plains and you see Auburn, not doing too well, it's not something that breaks your heart. The other game that I'm interested in today that's really going to affect Alabama, and this is something that we'll talk about after Nick Saban's press conference, is tonight's Ole Miss and Texas A&M game. That's a huge game. That's where College Game Day was. That's an enormous game because the implications of that game are huge. If Ole Miss pulls the upset, Alabama beats Arkansas, it doesn't matter what happens in the Iron Bowl. Alabama is playing in Atlanta against Georgia. Not to say that it doesn't matter what happens in the Iron Bowl, because we never forget in this state what happens in that football game. But with that said, it's the type of game where there's a lot less pressure on you if you're Alabama, if you know that you're already playing in Atlanta, right? So very interesting. The other thing, and I haven't been able to check this out, but apparently Tennessee has gone straight down the field and scored on Georgia, and they have. So Georgia's going to face a Tennessee team today that has just had an amazing run of offensive success here lately. So, and he's Trey. Oh, there's Saban. Nice. Let me pull off and let's listen to Coach.
To see everybody's smiling face again. I'm sure you don't like the fact that you can have to come here and you could have sit at home and done it on Zoom, right? Yeah. Well, I was really pleased with the way the guys came out and competed in the game today. These are tough games after you have a lot of SEC games to try to get guys to be serious about. But I think the energy and sense of urgency that we kind of had in the way we played was what we're looking for. And we got to play a lot of players. So that was a good thing that a lot of guys got to play, get some experience they may have to play. So, I thought we had great balance on offense. I thought Bryce played really well. Sack fumble really wasn't, his fault. The protection was better today, but we need to continue to try to, shore up those things so that we don't get him hit. And, but I think it was good that we got some balance in the running game today. Had some receivers make some explosive plays, got to play a lot of players. Defensively, I think after the first drive, they did a couple things that were a little different than what we were ready for. Really settled down and really played well. I mean, I don't know, they didn't have 150 yards total or whatever, so that's always pretty good. And we got to play a lot of players on defense as well. It was a little bit costly, out there. We lost Roydell probably for a good while, and JoJo probably not quite as serious, but still going to be out for a while. So those two are pretty significant injuries.
In the running game, how did you see them respond? And you used a lot of some of the emergency running backs. What did you see from those guys coming in?
Oh, I thought they played well. They've had an opportunity now for ever since Chase got hurt, however many weeks that's been, like since the Ole Miss game, I guess. So, we took DeMoy Kennedy from linebacker who had played some running back in high school. And, he's kind of a big, heavy, athletic guy that has made progress there. And Christian Leary's a wide receiver, a smaller, quicker guy, but still has played running back in his past. So we'll need those guys. Obviously, Trey Sanders is going to have to step up now. And, this is our third running back that, we've lost this season. So be a little thin, but we got to keep the guys that we got improving and, get those other guys even more ready to play in the future.
Javon Cohen and Darian didn't play today. What's their status moving forward?
Javon Cohen had a wrist issue that was repaired, and he's fine. And Dalcourt will be back to practice on Tuesday. So both guys will practice on Tuesday.
Can you also comment on the status of DeMarco Helms? I know he went out.
DeMarco has a thigh bruise. He had a thigh bruise going into the game. He unfortunately got hit in the same spot, even though he was padded. He could have gone back in the game and played, but I think the score was 35-3 or something at the time. And, D. Wright's a good player that has a lot of experience. So, we decided not to put him back in the game.
Hey, Coach. Bryce Young passed the 3,000-yard mark on the season, and Jamison passed the 1,000-yard mark. Talk about both of their performances today, and what's with their special connection that they have. That's a lot of connections today and throughout the whole season.
Well, I think, first of all, Bryce has done a really good job managing the entire offense in terms of whether it's get us in the right play, throw the ball the right place, try to get us in the right protection. He does a great job of preparing in the game. And, Jamison is exactly what we look for in the offseason. We wanted a fast vertical threat that could take the top off the defense. And a lot of the routes and big plays that he makes are designed for him because of who he is and what his skill set is. And it really complements, John Mechie too, and some of the other receivers that we have. So I think it's great that those guys have had outstanding years so far. I hope we can continue to do that, in the future.
Bryce started 13 of 13. What does it say about just, his focus level? And this is a week where, you challenge your team to come out focused.
Yeah, well, I really challenged the team this week. I told them it was kind of judgment day for us. We've been a little bit inconsistent. We don't look at the scoreboard. Shouldn't affect how we play. Opponent is faceless. It's all about how we play. And there's elements of being a team. Everybody's got to put the team first, buy into the principles and values of the organization, be positive and supportive of each other, and be responsible and accountable to do your job, and support other people and challenge them to do their job. And I thought that energy and enthusiasm and sense of urgency was really good out there today. And I think Bryce kind of led the charge on that.
Could you talk about some of the receivers behind Williams and Mechie and what they brought today?
Well, Baker made some good catches. Ajay Hall got to play, made a pretty good catch on third down. Ja'Cory Brooks has been making steady improvement and had an opportunity. We got a holding penalty on the play, but I'm pleased with the progress that those guys are making. And I think it's important that we continue to have these young players that can make some progress because, when you got guys go down, we had 2 starters in the offensive line out today. And now we lost a couple other guys, punt return guys, slot receiver. So we just got to, have more guys that are ready to play winning football. So, and I think those guys got great experience today, and I think they responded well.
Yeah, speaking of offensive line, second week in a row, y'all had some different personnel groupings. Could you just talk about the line and how they did with the running?
I think they did well, but, we're going to play against better competition, better front seven, bigger, stronger, more physical guys. I thought they did a good job today. I thought they did a good job all week in practice. These guys all want to play well. We need to do a good job to prepare them so that they can play well. I think we challenged ourselves as coaches a little bit this week to try to get more players to be able to play well on our team and make sure we were doing a good job in preparation in terms of how we practiced, the things that we looked at, the things that we saw. And I think the players responded well to it. And I think they played well today, which shows in the balance that we had offensively, run and pass.
Okay, so it was kind of a strong effort from the first half starters, but it was kind of still a fairly slow start on both sides in the first quarter, like for the first half of first quarter. So how much of an emphasis has the first quarter been in a week of preparation?
I think you really got to be digging deep. It's hard to win. And I see people getting beat. What was the Florida score today against Stanford?
It's like 62-52 right now. They were down
Yeah.
there.
So, do you want me to be critical of my team because we had to punt once in the first quarter and they got a field goal? I'm not going to do it. Like I said, they did a couple things. We made a couple mistakes. They did some things different. We adjusted to it. I think the players did a good job. And, I'm not going to be critical of anything that our players did when we win 59-3. So not a good question, incidentally.
All right, Coach, that's all we got.
Oh, there he is.
Gee.
Coach Saban. I'll tell you what, he's Trey Yanity. I'm Mick Gillispie. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is Bama Insider post game live.
My goodness.
Oh man. Look, well, you've been kind of throwing that thing together. Let me get your thoughts on this press conference. And let me ask you, and let's break it up piece by piece. And I'm going to start with the last thing that he said. He's been so positive about this team. And his last comment was, I'm not going to be critical of my team. After a 59-3 win, he brought up Florida having trouble with Samford. Your thoughts, Trey?
You know, I think the very last thing that you want to hear if you're asking a question in a press conference is that was not a good question, because usually a coach will at least find a way to answer it, even if he doesn't think it's a very good question. But he came out and said it right there. And, you know, he really doesn't want to make those comments about his team. And to start, Mick, I got to give some shout outs here. My people at Westgate, we got Alex down at the front desk. We got Tori as well. My girl Amber there. They're all hooking us up today. Jillian, of course. We got the buffet going. Guys, come to Westgate. This is just an unbelievable facility. And I apologize for the audio issues earlier in the show. I think we're good to go now.
Yeah, you sound good.
Excellent. It's clear skies again today. It's really a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day for football, but obviously Nick Saban there turning a beautiful day for whatever reporter that was into a bad one at the end. But I think it was a fair response. This team won the game 59-3. They were losing this game 3-0, and they did have to punt the ball in the first quarter. But look at the game. Look at the context of this game. Alabama got burned on defense to start to start that first quarter. And you talk about this defense when they've really struggled has been big plays. And, they led a couple big plays that kind of put New Mexico State in dangerous territory to start. They made an adjustment. That's the thing I love the most about this defense. When they have their backs against the wall, they find ways to make adjustments. We saw it at Florida. We saw it at times early against Ole Miss. We saw it in this game today. I think Alabama's defense is still trying to figure it out in a lot of different areas, but we saw Malachi Moore at the big hit on that, very same drive. And then we see Henry Oto'o get activated in this game there early. So, a reporter wants to get that, Nick Saban riled up, get that answer out of him, but you're just not going to have that today. They didn't play great to start, but they turned it around and looked really good overall. It is what it is. I think that Nick Saban probably even took it light there, just looking at what he's done in the past to some of these reporters.
Well, and I also feel like this, Trey, and I'm going to add this to it. Nick Saban is the master of motivating his team. And when he feels like he's got to ride the team when they're playing really well, he's critical of them. Hey, he doesn't want them to get too full of themselves. When the team is struggling, he's a lot more positive because he doesn't want the guys to get down on themselves. I feel like that's exactly what he's doing right now.
Exactly. And, it's this team. We talked about it last night on our tailgate show at Innisfree. I mean, this team is not last year's team. This team isn't 2016 Alabama. This isn't 2009, 2011 Alabama, 12 Alabama. This is 2021 Alabama. This team, while they do have some leadership, is a younger team than we've seen in the past. You don't want to come out and call these guys out, guys that are trying to build confidence in this program, especially after, you get to see so many different guys make their debut today or have their first big play in this game. You don't want to come out and attack your team when this is supposed to be a feel-good day, a day where you tune some things up and get right for the rest of the slate. That's just not his brand. And, maybe Josh Maxson saved that question there, save that reporter for the end because he knew something was coming. But, just not the right approach there.
Well, a lot of positives in today's 59-3 win, but a couple of negatives, and he addressed it. JoJo Earle and Roydell Williams are going to be out for a while.
Yeah, JoJo Earle was it was scary, I think, when we first saw it. I think he's going to miss. Nick Saban said sometime. It's not a serious injury now. Roydell Williams, I'm still a little bit confused on his status. I think we need to wait a little bit and kind of see how that goes. But, that could be super devastating, Mick. This running back room already lost Jace McClellan, and he was a key piece of this offense. Roydell Williams, didn't fill in that role and, kind of take that workload. Brian Robinson kind of had to take that workload, but it still is going to hurt to have this room thin out even more. Brian Robinson looks like one of the best running backs in the country right now. So I don't think, he's going to struggle at all from the extra workload, but you're going to have to find, maybe it's Trey Sanders stepping up in this moment. Maybe it's other guys. I don't know what they do. We saw Christian Leary get in there. We saw a linebacker play running back today. So they're going to try some things out here, I think. But, just a really poor timed injury, if nothing else, because this is the home stretch. This is where I think you start to really unload the full playbook. we've been complaining about running the football, or really the lack of running the football. I think we see them do that more, maybe throw the ball to running backs more as we get into this final stretch of the season here. But, tough injuries today. Thankfully, I don't think JoJo Earl is going to be out for too long.
No, well, and I hope not. I mean, but you know what? You just don't know what that means. Does that mean we won't? I'm guessing we don't see either guy for Arkansas, but does that mean we're going to be missing, both guys for the Iron Bowl? It kind of felt like that to me. The good news is that he said, hey, we've been practicing a lot of these guys, that we saw, including Leary, during the time, really ever since the time that McClellan got hurt. So they've been getting some reps. So it's not like they haven't touched the ball. And all these guys, for the most part, have run the football at some point in their life, whether it be in high school or different teams growing up. Maybe they didn't make it to Alabama as a running back, but it's a position where hey, I played linebacker and I played running back. I'm good at both. It's almost like in baseball, you get some guys that can pitch and hit. Just because they've got you as a pitcher doesn't mean that you couldn't still hit. And I feel like it's kind of the same way right now with running back. When you have great athletes, they can slide in there and make a difference. But for Alabama, they just cannot afford another running back injury.
They cannot. I mean, at this point, injuries in general are really going to hurt this team. And it's been interesting this year, Mick, to see, certain position groups just get absolutely ravaged by injury. You look at the outside linebacker position. Chris Allen goes out, almost play one of the season. Then you lose Drew Sanders not too far after that. Running back has been the same kind of deal for Alabama this season. Thankfully, at quarterback, Alabama's been more than healthy. On the defense, Alabama has managed to stay relatively healthy throughout the season to this point. But, those two spots have just killed Alabama. I don't know if that's going to, make the difference in this team getting to the playoff or not. Maybe if they had Chris Allen, Alabama would still be number one in the country, and you feel a lot more confident about that game. I think this team is still more than capable with the injuries. They have the talent. They have the depth. It's a young team, but they still have the depth. That's something that a lot of people are a little bit worried about, that, you put in the next man up and he's not talented enough to take over that spot. But you're playing at Alabama. You're a five-star. Whether you're 18, 19, 20, or you're grad student, you're 23 years old, I think anybody they put in this situation at this point in the season is going to be capable, because, hey, guys, we want to talk about making adjustments and how that's not going to work, 10 weeks into the year. But guess what? These guys are practicing every day, too. They're going out there and running the same amount of reps as the other guys. Maybe they haven't performed well enough to get those game reps. And game reps do mean a lot more than practice reps, but they're practicing in this Alabama scheme, in this program. That's, pretty arduous. And I think they're going to be prepared, whoever they turn to.
Well, Auburn upset today at home. They blew a 28-3 lead to Mississippi State. That obviously eliminates them, and it's between Alabama and Texas A&M now to win the West with 2 games left for the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, and Ole Miss today, too, taking on those Aggies. If they win that game, I believe Alabama will have locked it up here in the West. And, or you know what, I guess they would need to lose one more, because that would be their first loss here in the or you know what, no, they lost Mississippi State. This would wrap it up today. Scratch that and re-scratch it. Alabama is in great position, though, either way, in my opinion, because, this Auburn team has looked challenging. They looked really good in the first half today, but you saw the other side of Auburn. I think Alabama going on the road there for that Iron Bowl, it's going to be a hard atmosphere to play in, but this team has a lot of fight, and they've looked good in the second half, kind of inconsistently throughout the year. But I don't think, if this game turns into one where Alabama has to come back like they have in the past at Auburn, they can't do that. Arkansas next week, I don't want to be the guy that's sleeping on this Arkansas team, but I think this is a good matchup for Alabama. Arkansas likes to run the football. At this point in the season, at least, Alabama's defensive line just continues to look better and better. We see Will Anderson getting after it again today. So, these next 2 matchups are going to be interesting to me, Mick. But you look at the landscape of college football and just the craziness going on, not even today, this whole season. I don't think, I think anything is possible. But I think Alabama is still in as good of a position as they could be at this point.
Your thoughts on just today's game in general as we start to move towards closing up the show? We heard from Nick Saban, the injuries, just an overview of what you saw today as we start to think about Alabama and Arkansas in the final home game.
today's game was lackluster, and Alabama needed it to be lackluster. This didn't need to be a game where, you found yourselves getting frustrated with your performance. That could mean you're up by 28 or you're tied, but you didn't want to find yourself saying, why can't we make this adjustment? Or, why can't this guy make this correction against New Mexico State? It's New Mexico State. But they did make those corrections today, and we saw a lot of improvement on both lines. I think the offensive line came out and looked really good, and they were in a tough spot to start the day. And, at running back, Brian Robinson continued to look better. Bryce Young continued to make the right decisions. We saw the youth get into the game. Jalen Milroe running the football a little bit. A little Jalen Hurts-esque, was our comparison here before the show started. But just trying things out and feeling comfortable. This is what this game is about. Mexico State made $2 million today. They didn't come in here thinking they were going to win the game. But
Right.
Alabama came in here, just trying to find that level of comfort and, trying to get everything right for this final stretch. I think they accomplished that today.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look, this is the only other thing you would have really liked to get out of this game is to get out of it injury free. That's not the case. Roydell Williams is a huge loss for Alabama. Don't get me wrong. We're going to find out what Trey Sanders is all about. And so many of you guys that watch and listen and comment have wanted to see more Trey Sanders. I hope he's ready, because the opportunity is now his. He's up next, right? Brian Robinson has been great this year. He's been banged up. He's had a ton of carries. He's never touched the football as much as he has this year for Alabama, right? Now, all of a sudden, it's Trey Sanders and a bunch of guys that weren't even running backs at the beginning of the season, right? So for the Crimson Tide, we're going to see what that means for this offense. The other thing is this. Bryce Young has an opportunity to win the Heisman. If he can – he's got to have a moment. He's got to have a moment against Arkansas. He's got to have a moment against Auburn, maybe against Georgia if that happens. But if this guy has that moment, he's done everything else up until this point to win that award. And how crazy would it be for Alabama to win back-to-back Heismans? I don't think it's crazy to say that, because no one's really taken the bull by the horn. Will Anderson Jr., it's tough to win the Heisman as a defensive player. I remember when Charles Woodson won, and the thing that helped him is that he would return punts. He had the touchdown and did the Heisman pose and kind of captured the imagination of the country. And for Will Anderson Jr., if he's going to be the guy to win it this year, he's going to have to continue to have these big games, and he's going to have a moment like that. But I'll tell you what, Bryce Young is right on the cusp of being the Heisman Trophy winner with 2 games left and maybe, a third in Atlanta if that happens. But he's got to have, I think for him to win, he's got to have that moment. Today, 5 more touchdowns for this kid.
I don't know if he does, Mick. I mean, just look at the numbers and look at this race. There's really not anybody else that's had that moment, and anybody else that's close statistically. I mean, Matt Corral for a while, I think, was a great argument. And, Kenneth Walker III at Michigan State coming into play here. But, you look around the country, Bryce Young has been the most dominant player far and away. And, his teammate Will Anderson is right there, as crazy it is to say. I kind of want to save that, my campaign for Will Anderson for a year, because I think next season there's going to be absolutely no doubt he's a contender and a front runner for the Heisman. So maybe, we'll let Bryce get this one. Alabama can just win 3 in a row next year. But, at this point, I'm with you. I think every Heisman needs to have that moment, deserves to have that moment. At least that's what makes it special. But, in 2021, it was such a crazy season and a really just kind of lackluster Heisman race. I wouldn't be surprised to see Bryce Young win it just based off of the numbers alone.
Yep. And again, the big news, Roydell Williams out for an extended period of time. So Brian Robinson is going to carry a heavy load for Alabama, and then Trey Sanders and some other guys behind him, including Christian Leary, who came to Alabama as a receiver. Now he's in running back form, and JoJo Earl was injured for Alabama, not as severe as Williams, but Nick Saban talked about that in his post-game press conference, which we had here. All right, Trey, what do you have going on this week?
It's going to be another big week, another SEC game coming to Tuscaloosa. Hope you guys can join us throughout the week. I believe we're going to have a recruiting show on Tuesday with Andrew Bone. That one's always a very fun show. You guys got Monday Night Quarterback going on Monday, I believe. And then Wednesday, we're going right back out with our score predictions. We got some college football playoff to cover this week. Basketball is in full swing now. We're going to have our tailgate show with you guys on Friday night. And then we're going to do this again on Saturday here at Westgate after the Arkansas game. And real quick, too, Mick, I got to give a shout-out to my grandma. It's her birthday today. She's an Oklahoma big Sooner fan, but she's always been a big supporter of us and the Tide. So I hope she's had a very special day. But another big week, and I'm excited for it. What you got going on?
Well, look, Grandma Yanity, we do apologize that Baylor ruined your Oklahoma Sooners season today, but at least Alabama can keep it rolling. So instead of crimson and cream, just roll crimson and white, and maybe Alabama will make this an even happier birthday for you. Tomorrow night, we'll be back on at 6 o'clock. We'll take your calls, our weekly call-in show. I got a feeling we're going to talk more about the same things that we're getting into now. Alabama's health at running back. We'll recap some of the games going on, including Tennessee, who is off to a quick start against Georgia. I mean, they're moving the football, which a lot of people expected. They're tied at 7 right now with 3:54 to go. Georgia's having a tough time keeping up with Tennessee's pace. That's a game that I can't wait to get off here and watch. You got Ole Miss and Texas A&M later tonight. So it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out as we got some really big games in the SEC. But we'll talk about that and more tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Monday, we've got Monday Night Quarterback. That's with Tony Tsoukalis and myself. That'll be a 6 o'clock game, 6 o'clock show tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. That'll be Kyle Henderson and myself. Then on Monday, Trey mentioned it, we'll have the Andrew Bone recruiting show with Trey. We'll also have our college football playoff rankings when they're announced. Kyle and I will be on for that. Kyle and Trey on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock with the score prediction show. Then on Friday, back at Innisfree, one more time in Tuscaloosa for the Bama Insider Tailgate Show. Then next Saturday, a week from now, we'll be back at Westgate Luxury Condominiums to do our show. All right. Anything else before I close up shop today, Trey?
Another great day for the Tide, and I got to give one last shout out to our guy Chris here for producing it, always doing a killer job for us. So thank you, Chris, and thank you guys for hopping in, getting in the comments, hitting that like button, and being great Alabama fans as always.
Yeah, can't forget Chris hanging out with you up there on the deck, and then you get an early night, which is something that we haven't gotten a lot of lately. It seems like every time we turn around, there's Alabama playing a night game. But look, before we go anywhere else, let me throw this onto the screen. There's Westgate Luxury Condominium. Find out more about them at westgateal.com. It's just steps from Bryant-Denny Stadium. Exclusive access to the Skygate Club for you and your friends. You got catered game days, unparalleled service, luxury condos with high-end finishes, appliances, and more. You can call them as well at 855-287-1318, and that's westgateal.com. Earn rental income, on-site hospitality team to handle owner and guest requests like of all kinds. You got access to world-class housekeeping and maintenance crews, website and digital marketing services for your resident to maximize revenue and distribution. I'll tell you what, the service there, Jillian and her crew do just an absolutely fantastic job to make it just a wonderful experience for us and for all the people that live there and come in on the weekends. You don't just have to be there for football, though. You can also rent those. You can buy them as well. There's still units available, 1 to 5 bedroom condominiums that range from 900 to 3,000 square feet. That's also with the huge floor plans, the oversized balconies, and the amazing kitchens that have Wolf and Sub-Zero equipped kitchens and everything else. So I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys in person next week as we say goodbye. All right, final score 59-3. Thanks to Kyle Henderson for his help today. And for Chris and Trey, I'm Mick. Hey, we'll do it again next week, guys. 59-3 Alabama, a winner. They're now 9-1. Roll Tide.